All right, Stallions, before you get started in today's lesson, let's go ahead and take some notes. So right now you need to make sure you have your composition book out so you have everything inside your composition book to look back on. So before we get started, I know that we are having trouble on our homework. This should help you. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. The first 4 problems I'm going to do, we're going to go ahead and only do one-step inequalities. Now again, first step, I want us to go ahead and circle our variable. So my variable is a positive x. And it's the same exact way as equations. I have 2 sides, and I need to isolate my variable. But I have this -2 here. So I need to make sure that I take away that -2. So what is the inverse operation? I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So now my x is by itself. And I still have this greater than sign, and still the same because we didn't multiply or divide by a negative number. And I'm going to add this. 16 plus 2 gives me the answer 18. But we're not done. I also need to plot my answer on a number line. So directly in the middle, I'm going to put my number 18. I'm going to go ahead and write my numbers in the front and the back. Now I'm going to read this to myself. X is greater than 18. Now remember, we always read from left to right. So x has to be greater than 18. It cannot be equal to 18, so therefore I'm going to go ahead and put an open circle on 18 because it cannot be equal to. Now I'm going to think, what numbers are greater than 18? Well, I have 19, 20, etc. So therefore, I'm going to shade or draw my arrow to the right. I'm done with that problem. Let's go ahead and look at answer number 2, or question number 2. X minus 6 is less than or equal to 10. So again, let's circle our variable. It's right here. I have 2 sides. And I want to isolate my variable. Same exact steps as equations. So I have minus 6. What's the inverse of minus 6? Add 6. What I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So now I'm going to solve it. This equals 0, so I only have x. I have the same inequality sign because that does not change. 10. I apologize, my iPad stopped, so I hope we picked up where we left off. So if you missed this, I went ahead and isolated my variable by adding 6 to both sides, and now I have x is less than or equal to 16. I'm going to plug in my number line. Now it says or equal to, so that word equal to means I'm going to do a closed circle because it can be 16. X has to be less than or equal to, so I'm going to shade everything to the left. Next one, we're dealing with multiplication. Again, 2 sides, circle your variable. Now it's a positive, so I know that my final inequality sign is still going to be the same. So how do I get rid of times 5? Well, what's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. This equals 1x. 55 divided by 5 is 11. Same thing. On a number line, 11. It's going to be an open circle. And if I read this, x has to be less than 11, so everything to my left. Last one for one step. I have x divided by 9, don't mind this, is less than or equal to 8. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line. Actually, let's change this up. Let's make it negative x over 9. So if I circle my variable, I circled a negative. And what's our rule? If we circle and it has a negative, automatically it's going to flip my inequality sign. So how do I get rid of? Divide by 9. Well, what's the inverse? I'm going to multiply by 9. So times 9 times 9. And not just a regular 9, it has to be negative because I want positive 1. This is going to reduce to positive 1x. 8 times negative 9, well, it's a negative because a positive and negative gives me a negative result. And 8 times 9 is 72. Again, last step, graph it. I apologize, but my battery's about to run out, so I'm going to hurry up. This, on the number line, this is negative 72. So what's less than negative 72? Negative 73 is on this side. What's greater than negative 71? So if I looked at x has to be greater than negative 72, so my arrow goes that way. Again, these are just practice questions. You're going to have more to practice in a second. 2-step, same exact thing. We're going to circle first our variable. It's positive, so I know that my sign's going to remain the same. I'm going to take care of my constant first, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So now I have 10 and s over 6, so that means I'm going to multiply both sides by 6 to get rid of that divide by 6. That equals 1. My s is by itself. And now 6 times 10 is 60. So on a number line, 60 is directly in the middle. What's less than? 59. Greater than? 61. Now it says 60 is less than x. So how can I rewrite this problem so my variable's in the front? I'm just going to go ahead and reflect it. So s has to be greater than 60. Now if you look, these two are the same exact thing. I just moved my variable to the front because this still tells me that 60 is less than s and s is greater than 60. So now, since it's not equal to, I'm going to do an open circle. And I'm going to look. What can s be? Well, s can be anything greater than 60, so I know that I need to shade to the right. Now, the nice thing about inequalities, it's very similar to equations. I do the same exact inverse operations, but now I just need to make sure that I make sure my inequality symbol is correct. Number 2, circle your variable. It's a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of everything, my constant first. Since I know that we're not multiplying or dividing by a negative, I'm going to go ahead and leave my inequality sign the same. Minus 5 from both sides because I want to get rid of that constant first. That equals 0. Now I have b over 2. And on this side, I have negative 7 and negative 5. Signs are the same, so I'm going to add them up. Negative 12. How do I get rid of divide by 2? I multiply both sides by 2. This equals just b. B on this side now, because this cancels. And this side, negative 12 times positive 2 would give me negative 24. Not done with inequalities. We need to graph it or plot my dot. So directly in the middle, negative 24. What is less than negative 24? Negative 25. What is greater than negative 24? Negative 23. Since it says an equal to sign, we're going to go ahead and do a closed dot. Now it says b is greater than or equal to negative 24. So all my numbers to the right are greater than, so we're going to go ahead and mark shade to the right. Now this is practice. Ms. Rodriguez will know if you, or answer any questions that you may have to the best of her ability. Now reflect back to your notes. Go ahead and get your copy of your assignment and complete that, please. All right, guys. Be on your best behavior. Have a great day.